with Spirit of Matter, and this episode is dedicated to the Mercury Sun Cazimi conjuncting Neptune that happens on the 16th of March, a day earlier or a day later, depending on where you are on the planet. And this is a fascinating triple conjunction because it happens with an outer planet. So, what is a Cazimi, first of all? So you see here the 25 degrees, right? Sun, Moon, and Mercury. Sun, Neptune, and Mercury. Neptune, of course, the planet of mixing things up, so I said Moon. And we see that exactly squaring Mars in Gemini. This is unique in various ways. First of all, the 4 times the degree of 25, which makes this number show up. So I am not a numerologist. I have basic knowledge in numerology, but you can give your input there. Cazimi is when a planet meets the sun. Exactly meeting the sun. And since the sun, the way it operates, right, the galaxy is revolving around the sun that is not stationary as well. The sun has a telos, it's going to a certain direction, non-linearly, but it's going to a certain direction, and then the planets kind of loop around it. So when a planet meets the sun from the perspective of the planet we are at. So right now it's planet Earth, but let's say it would be, I don't know, on Jupiter, on Mars, or whatnot. Then we'd have to think in a relation of where we are, planet Earth, which makes me think that I forgot to mention. Okay, so the chart of the beginning of this. So I'm gonna do print of this, and then I'm going to go to the current planets right now because they usually do that and I forgot. Current planets. So, and this will help me explain what I want. Current planets, so this is Mars day, Sun hour. And interestingly enough, I opened with an explanation around the Sun and the solar system. Sun is 20. The conjunction is in place because the Mercury is already 3 degrees from the Sun, less than 3 degrees from the Sun, and the Sun is less than 2 degrees from Neptune. Okay, and we already have the square in place with Mars tightly applying to square Neptune here in 24 degrees. So the Moon is triggering that, which explains the Moon here in Sagittarius. Is applying to square this conjunction and applying to oppose Mars, which may explain why I got the feeling that, I wanted to do a video about that conjunction. Okay, this is how the point of where I'm at in relation to the topic I'm talking about. Okay, so that's the chart of today where I started the video. And of course, the ascendant is in Leo, so there's a very strong sun here. And we're back to the chart of the actual triple conjunction. So, whichever planet I'm at, that's important because we begin to move to new planets, we begin to conceptualize astrology. So the prediction is if I'm on Jupiter, and from the vantage point of Jupiter, okay, Mercury and the Sun seem to conjunct. Okay, and this is, one would say, an illusion, a Neptunian word, an illusion. Okay, but this is also a very real perception, sight, sun, in our eyes, what we see. Okay, so that illusion has implications. Our eyesight is also an illusion. Okay, going back to my studies of filmmaking, right? Filmmaking, Mercury, Pisces, filmmaking, Mercury, technology, Pisces, art, so filmmaking. Mercury also pictures, sun, what we see. It's actually a good day to have a patent relating sight, vision, people who explore eyesight or develop any sort of technology with which we can observe seemingly unseen phenomena. This today is a good time to have a patent. Not today, the triple conjunctions are also today is the beginning to have a patent relating to that, to have a technological innovation relating to that. I always like to talk about science, genuine science, not like the gaslighting we get um, which is a very genuine is a very fascinating word during Neptunian Mercury. So putting all of this together, um, it's a time where, from the vantage point of where we are, just the Cazimi of anything with the sun, we get a certain clarity that we don't get in other times. Now, depending on how do you view, ontology, what we look at, and epistemology is like how do we know that we know. You might agree or disagree with me, and that's legit. Um, but if something is in the light of the sun, is together with the sun, they're receiving direct connection to the sun from the vantage point of where I'm at. How does that affect me? Clarity about communication. Okay? Now, the sun is in Pisces. The sun is ruling Leo. Leo is a fixed fire sign. Pisces is a mutable water sign. So water is water and fire. Water is dried up by fire. It evaporates by fire. So the sun is in a place where she doesn't feel so welcome because she comes and everything dries up when she shines, right? She comes to shine and everything dries up. But the sun is clarity of sight, and there can be a particular type of clarity, luminous, that is luminous, illumination, Lumiere again, filmmaking, uh, around Neptunian things, because this is conjuncting Neptune. So, Mercury, technology, language, the way we communicate, children, the childish curiosity, and the trying things, okay, patents, the act of learning, the editing, writing, all those things verbally and non-verbally, because we're in Pisces. All of these things receive a certain type of clarity under this triple conjunction. This is just a conjunction. I haven't yet touched Mars here. So this is a wonderful time to celebrate rejuvenation in the way we do Mercury, or in the way Mercury is seen in the world. Okay, trade. Mercury also rules trade, business, liquidity, right? Liquidity. And I don't remember who's the person on Twitter who laughed at the liquidity meme. I don't have it. It's a great meme. If you have it, put it in the comments below so they can get credit, because liquidity is not something I came up with. And I don't remember directly who I got this from. So the notion of liquidity in trade, okay, what we call cash flow. Yeah. Now we get to the Neptune. Neptune is what it rules, first of all, right? The great vast ocean, the depth, like the vast ocean. So both oneness and the illusion of oneness. It rules the things we take to gain alternative state of consciousness. So that can be a drug, that can be the sleeping pill, that can be anesthesia, that can be psychedelic drug, okay, something that help you reach an altered state of consciousness. That can also be non-dual experience. Non-dual experience, it can be your channeling, it can be your astral sex, it can be what people call psychosis, it can be what people call psychic attack, okay? So it can be a range of experience ranging from elated experiences, discovery of truths and realms that are altered to the realm we normally stand in. Okay, so we have access to veils of other worlds, but in the logic sense, it's a great time. Actually, it is a great time to do some logic because it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like that, but the type of logic that deals with the sets of worlds that we want to conceptualize truths or statements around many worlds, this is a time of energy to tap into a study of logic that is not usually accessible. Okay, now the application of these insights may be tricky just because Neptune is so far away from Earth. And so what we get from there to apply here is tricky. Okay, if I want to translate some book that was written in Chinese to American English, obviously certain things would be lost in translation. And so we would get things, even the notion of karma that we have in India. I'm a person who was not born in India, and I do not have the context that an Indian have to explain what karma. So I might interpret it from my vantage point. And I think Claire Moon for addressing this topic of karma and the cultural context that you needed to understand certain philosophies. So even when we want to expose ourselves to various philosophies, language sometimes could be something that connects, and sometimes it's very difficult to tell the same joke in a different language. It doesn't cross in translation, and so perception can be askew. The same thing when we talk about something that comes from far away. So we have access to there, but it's tricky to make the connections and to translate. Okay, Mercury, translate it into our everyday mundane reality. That is why we get this the notion that Neptune is illusion, disillusionment, ideation of all things, and so on and so forth. Okay? So it's just difficult to see so far away and understand what we're seeing in every sense of the word. But that's just why Neptune is so related to various scientific discoveries, and what we can conceptualize Neptune is also the notion of that which we can't see. So waves, frequencies, energies, all these things that are not, simple to translate. Okay, and require a great containment of certain practices, also scientifically, that are not accessible to our mundane reality, even if we are channelers. Okay, even if we are channelers and intuitives and this and that, even there. Okay, the fact that I channeled something from some entity, some process, doesn't mean that I understand or that things happen at the same time, or that there's a notion around that. But also, it doesn't mean that what I received was not real, that I'm imagining, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's what happens with scientific breakthroughs and scientific developments. We usually need the technology. Larry Loudon, late Larry Loudon, 1990s. You can check my Larry Loudon video that I did. Between a notion of science that is traditional, rigorous, methodical, and a notion of science that's innovative, that's groundbreaking. The difference is how relaxed or constricted are the scientific standards for empiricism, i.e., what we consider evidence. Okay? The more relaxed they are, the more we allow creativity, insight to and all that to come in. But there is also a giant filter. Like, how do we filter the information? If you ever try to channel, you know what I'm talking about. If you ever try to do a thought experiment, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? And so a technology can assist in observation. Okay, if we can observe something we weren't previously able to observe before, for example, MRIs of people who do channeling. And so the MRI, if it shows, and it showed different neural activity within the channel as they are channeling versus when they are not channeling, impossible with my brain because I always have channel. Um, so they see the divergence, they see variance. Again, this is what we look for. We look for variance in order to tell one state from another, and that is exactly what Neptune makes it so difficult to do. Why? Because it's just so far away. When you look into the horizon, it looks like the sky meets the sea, and then you zoom in. Heck, the sky meets the sea, but later, hell, you zoom in, the sky meets the sea, but later you get this infinity of things, and then, it yields all kinds of scientific theories and quest for the eternal. Neptune is also representing the eternal in that sense. And so the meaning of all the three of them can both yield technologies that transform theories from experimental, pseudoscientific, the people that call everything pseudoscientific, that are like, well, you can believe that, but there's no way I can test your hypothesis. A technology that allows you to observe variance, that is what brings those pseudoscientific conspiracy theory, blah, 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 into a revolution where they are now considered a part of what we can rigorously, methodically observe. Okay? And that rigorously and methodically is divergent, because if I can observe the brain of a channeler as they channel versus as they don't channel, I can observe when they channel, and if I get deeper into it, I might be able to observe the frequencies of different frequencies of channeling that perhaps can be interpreted as different entities or different states of channeling or variance across channeling, and we can see what applies, what works for day-to-day reality and what doesn't work. And then we can say, oh, okay, this frequency, oh, we get good knowledge from that. And maybe it stops working. We need to tune another frequency. And the planets in astrology, they can be presented of where the frequencies we can get good information from. We have something around the luminary, okay, the sun and the moon. So here, this is triggered by the sun. It is not triggered by the moon. And that's not directly. So that is something important to remember. So this time can be great for scientific advances of the solar kind. Solar energy can be very literally solar energy. How to deal with leakages, because Neptune can also be leakages of this energy. And what we need to remember about technology, because this is a great time for patents, technologies, new things to emerge, is also, although the moon is decreasing, so you can finalize a project, okay, or something is being released, okay, maybe, but because the moon is decreasing, it's more like finalizing a project or finalizing a notion, or going through the wrap. We might not have that be launched yet. At least I do not recommend to launch it before the moon begins to grow, and we would need an election for that. So you can consult me, and if you are open to learning, then I'm very open to experiment with you. All I'd ask for is dividends. And the understanding that you take full responsibility on being totally experimental and my not really knowing what I'm doing. Okay, so you really need to be experimental for that. And you say, oh, well, let's try something new, understanding that can tank, and like that's your money or your investor's money there. But if it rises, then sure, like I sure expect to have dividends, not in the accounts of humanity, but just decent living. So yes, I'm very open to consultation from companies that want to consider launching things and so on and so forth, given these conditions. Like, you really need to show me that you're experimental and you're willing to work with the unexpected. So what else about this? Now, Mercury, Neptune. Try to talk about the slippery planets with language of the mundane world. Anyway, Neptune. Dissolution of boundaries. Okay, just remember that when it seems, when we look into the horizon, it seems like the sky and the sea meet each other. Okay, so we see dissolution is just in that illusionary boundary that we see with our naked eyes, that the illusion of eternity is created. And that's something very interesting. Okay, the illusion of eternity, or the sense of eternity, because this illusion is an experience, and that experience is real, depending on, the philosophy that you use for experiential thing. I don't remember the philosophy of experiences, what it's called, like, um, but it is actually fascinating that the illusion is, or the experience of eternity is actually created by seeing what looks like a very clear boundary. So you see a clear boundary, but you know that this, what you see, is not what you get, and this is how you actually experience the lack of boundary. You experience eternity. So that's something totally fascinating, um, that I notice around this conjunction. So you could have those psychedelic experiences, experiencing eternity, and so on and so forth, from the Neptune. Like, I have ascendant around just 1 degree from that triple conjunction. So of course you see me, leaking luminary insights about mercurial things all over the place. Um, but that depends on how this chart meet you. So Neptune is also what is lack of boundaries. Okay, so it's when we want to permeate a certain reality. So we talked about channeling. We also talked about the certain drugs and medications and so on and so forth. And then there are these drugs that help or assist in processing things. So sometimes being having a distance and being very far away from an experience allows you to process it, and that can be facilitated through numbing medications or herbs or whatnot. So you can, or altered states of consciousness that are achieved elsewhere. So that can be that kind of experience that is shamanic, that is healing. And this is how Mercury is also related to shamanic medicine, healers, and conventional medicine, viral infections, because the lack of boundaries. So the type of ailment that is difficult to diagnose and difficult to control, that leaks around. Okay, it's viral, no boundaries. And so Mercury is also things that are missing. Okay, the mysterious. So with the mysterious, it can be espionage, because their job is to go missing in order to find information. Okay, to understand. It's like getting invisible in order to see something. Yeah, the dissonance is a big word, but dissonance not as just cognitive dissonance, gaslighting. No, 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 no. It's the dissonance like Zen. Okay, it's just like Zen meditation. Okay, I just said this word. Everything just Zen meditation. So espionage. So that can be technologies around espionage. That can be leaking. That can be also hacking, which is a lot to do with, it's just a technique of how people do espionage with the reality of technology today. Surveillance, of course. So surveillance. So something can be revealed to you about surveillance. And the other day I was sitting in my porch and looking at the sky. We usually have some combat planes and so. And so I was seeing something shiny. I didn't hear anything, just seeing something shiny, tiny, and I knew it's not an alien, going from one direction. Then I see right in the sky, and again something shiny, tiny, and I was like, okay, that's probably drones doing something, and they're not making any noise. So that can be anything from the drones they send for Google Maps that can take pictures of the place. So you can use these things to locate missing people, but you can also use these things for surveillance. It's the dual nature of something: non-dual, 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 but also dual. Okay, the dual within the non-dual within the dual. You get where I'm heading. So all of those experiences. So you might reveal certain things, certain secrets, certain missing things might be revealed because we have a luminary sun, or certain luminaries can be missing because we have an outer planet. Yes, certain deaths can happen. Hopefully not mine. Um, but certain luminary souls, okay, people who are of the sun rulership, ruled by Leo, that are artistic, can be can pass away. This also is a part of reality. Um, but also perhaps can be born, right? It depends. If it's in someone's eighth house, perhaps they are being born. We have souls born on this day, can be very artistic and very and have an access to science that is not usual, that is refreshing, or driven from realms of consciousness that are not usually accessible. Just because of this alignment. Okay, this alignment, this very alignment is from a vantage point. We can't ignore and I'm being very cautious with the language here because it's very easy to say, quantum, I'm looking at this from this point of view, it affects this, it affects that. Quantum is just one study case of this concept that the vantage point that I'm looking at something alters what I see, which alters my experience, which alters the relation to what I see. So we have projection in psychology. Um, we have illusions of sight, right? The illusions of sight, or what we call a fata morgana is also that type of illusion. Yeah, I'm thinking about plasticity and elasticity, but that would be more complex and very hard to talk about something so material with Neptune. Um, waves. Well, there is the relational part of gravity. Okay, we talk about entropy and gravity is a wave. Like perhaps there's something I need to get updated about. It was the dimensions of time, stuff they created, the experiment they did around transportation or of time, like the quantum loopy thingy that I really need to get updated with that. I might do a study with me video, but I need a better election, right? I need a better election for that. But just to say, quantum theory is just one study case of the implication of the notion that the vantage point that I'm looking at is having a certain rapport or a lack of with what I'm looking at. And that affects both me and what I'm looking at. Yeah. So projection in psychology is a very simple way to understand. If I look at you and I think I just don't see correctly, okay? I see you and I see you unclear because you're a bit far from me. You make a face, I might think you're angry, and that can be both affected by how I feel, or just the thought that I may think you're angry is going to make me make a face, and then you come closer, you already see me angry, so you think I'm angry at you, and so on and so forth. All the other way around, I think you make a happy face, or that you're looking at me, and then I look around and you look hot, and I say, oh, you look hot, to myself, hopefully. And then, you might either feel rejection, or feel you're actually more drawn to me, and that's the rapport where people build the reciprocity. So psychology is a good example to explain that. Now, more things Neptunian. So I said the sea, waves, technology of exploring waves, exploring the seas, the variety of temperatures that affects the waves and the stream of the oceans. We can have revelations around that, discussion around that, enclosure, because the moon is decreasing. So we're decreasing something around that. If you want to do humanitarian work to decrease the causes for tsunamis and storm like that, maybe that can be, you can find an election to do that, or set the intention around this time. So doing humanitarian magic. That being said, either you're very experimental or you really, really know what you're doing with that. It's not beginner stuff. I don't even know how to do that. Not that I am a great, the magic is a beginner with that. So, the square from Mars. Mars in Gemini, exiting its shade period. Okay, Mars is at the threshold of the shade period. When Mars went retrograde, it came back. Okay, so Mars is at the gateways of getting out of Gemini. We have the terms here. Well, I'm not going to work with terms for this video. It's long enough. Mars, Mars squaring. So the angle of square, the 90 degrees angle, is a Martian. Okay, it's a frictional angle of tension to what we just seen. Mars in Gemini, very quick, very quick to speak. Okay, sharp words or use of weapon. Mars as civil argument, because Gemini is civil. So those kind of stuff can be on a mundane level. I don't even think I need to say a lot about that, because that has been ongoing, and there are enough videos of what's going on in the world. Yes, there can be a mundane development on this day, can be hidden because of this. Not yet the planet to do that. Outer planet Uranus is going to finalize. Mars can make small steps here, but there are certain things, the combination of Mars, okay, direct moving forward, acting on, sharp words, and Neptune, things go missing, is the combination of working and missing and like non-linear type of progress. Non-linear type of progress, what planet walks in a non-linear fashion, not talking about cyclic, which is still somewhat predictive and somewhat linear, if you do the graph of, but actually I'm talking about the non-linear and non-linear in the sense of continuation, and this is Uranus. Okay, the way Uranus walks is Uranus does a silly walk around the sky. You can watch videos about Uranus with Planet George, and you see that the way Uranus progresses across the ecliptic, or the illusion of what seems like it's surrounding the Earth, surrounding the sun, but from our vantage point, it looks like it goes here, it goes there, it flips here, it flips there. It's unusual, and that's why it's also associated with unusual on the holistic level. Okay? Unusual stuff happening. The storm element. Uranus here is in 16 degrees, and it is trined by the moon, which is in Capricorn. Saturn is already in 1 degree, and Saturn is trining Mars. Mars is applying to trine Saturn here. Any applied aspect to Saturn means longevity. A trine means that there is good harmony between action and structure. Okay. That being said, why did I say that Mars Neptune is the closest to having Uranus in Gemini without having Uranus in Gemini? Because of this non-linear dissolving that particular Martian energy. So it can be, like I said in my previous videos, there's a revelation, but it's like nobody, like something goes missing. There's a technology, something goes missing. We can't launch, or we have, it can be text messages. Okay, somebody writes to somebody, that message is gone, but it's fated, because when Uranus is going to go to Gemini in 2025. In 2026, the revelations that we are now preparing for consciously, mentally, emotionally, whatnot, are going to be more finalized and ready to apply in the real world. Okay, if you think about, you're learning a new subject topic, and you think about the first year, if you go to do a degree, the first year students versus third year students. Okay, so this combination is first year student. Oh, it does like this. Okay, I want to apply it. I want to do, hands-on experience. I want to apply that. And Neptune is the kind of divine guide that the mistakes you're making are fated. So by the time you get to the third year, Uranus, there are already things you understand that allow you to go with this application and be more able to deal with this energy. Okay, another example is for filmmaking. Yeah, you come with a screenplay, you just learned screenwriting. You just learn screenwriting and say, I'm going to write a feature film. And you write this feature film and you do you combine, you take all the scenes and then you mix them up together. And then a couple of notes are missing from the screenplay. And you're like, damn, I wrote this scene. I remember I wrote this scene. You're trying to do a presentation to class. I wrote this scene. And you like, it just goes awkward. But then by the time Uranus comes, there are certain things that you said, okay, I wrote this scene, but if I had presented it to this instructor, they would have steal it and they would have get it on their name. Now, me and the people who are producing the movie with me, we're making this scene or a scene that is even more advanced than that, and it's on all of our names, so it doesn't get stolen from us. Or alternatively, you did something that is not so good and then the credit was taken from you, but you didn't know it was not so good. You're like, they took my credit, then Uranus comes in and we're like, oh my gosh, that was such a stupid mistake. I'm so happy it's on somebody else's name. Okay, those, and we talk about trade, huh? So those are also the type of things that can happen. What happens during this time with the Mars square, it can be a fated loss, a fated revelation, or a fated, I wouldn't say defeat here so much because we were not in the Aldebaran degrees anymore, but it is more like the effect. There's a certain loss of the effect, or effect is going viral. It can be the other way around. Something that you didn't even mean to be viral becomes viral. Maybe because somebody is listening to you on the phone. Maybe because there is a hacking, okay, and then some details got viral. Some message that somebody sent to somebody got viral. You just meant to say it, I just wanted to release. And then like everybody looking at this and they're like, oh damn, So there's this friction between what Neptune is doing and how Mars is acting. Okay? It can also mean that you want to unveil a very artistic, idealized image of something, and the words that come out of your mouth are brute. Because Mars is sharp words. So you want to communicate something. Or you want to communicate something that's very tender, and then you come and talk about it, and the words are just so they don't come out right. Okay, but then comes Uranus to Gemini, and you're like, hey, we need to pay attention to these people that can't communicate as well as other people, and they should not be disbelieved, discredited, be seen as violent. Because sometimes we think, oh, this person is violent, and they didn't actually mean that, or they didn't know how to express themselves, and all those things around communication. So, but then on the other hand, this can be somebody who's genuinely intending to do harm, and you're like, oh, but they didn't mean that, and all of those intrigues around that. So Mars does make an action that is in tension with this conjunction, and it has long-term implications because of Saturn in Pisces. Okay, so there are long-term implications to a certain action that we make. And Saturn here sextiles Venus. Venus in the 29 degrees, the anaretic degree, squares Pluto. And so it's kind of like a backup plan. It's like a backup plan because Saturn saves the day. What Mars is doing is kind of undermining perhaps, but this undermining is fated. And Saturn here, the structure saves the day. It can be the way of, there's a certain regulation, or there's a certain rule, or there's a certain structure, or the illusion of a structure that protects Venus here. Protects a certain Venus women rights. Okay, and for example, you could be a woman acting Martian, and there, and you're in line with Saturn, but there's something that's undermining some Neptunian or ideation that you do or that you have. Okay, and then Saturn saves the day because it's protecting what is of the Venusian. And here Venus in Aries, Venus is in detriment in Aries. So this is the Venus that makes things happen. Okay, so there can be even an action from artists or musicians or whatnot that is in detriment to their shine, but is actually protective of creative rights or of women. Also, when I think about patents, let's say you have a patent around women's medicine, whether it's trans women or cisgender women, and you have a patent around that. So you want to register in the patent, whatnot, but you say, you know what? Not anything that I ever do, right? But for those of you who read my Hebrew Facebook, but you say, you know what? I'm going to write it on Facebook. I'm not going to register it for the patents. I'm going to write it on Facebook, so nobody can register it as a patent. But that technology is available for all women. And in Saturn, and then there is like, a criticism or something like that. It's like, wait, you're undermining your creative rights. And Saturn says, well, you know what? This is registered as your idea. You might not going to make dividends out of it. It's registered as your idea, but that will allow the implementation of the technology of your patent to be accessible to all of these women that are in detriment. Yeah, their blood is ruled by Mars, so that they have, like, I don't know, things to do with the womb. Okay, maybe if you went through a certain surgery in order to either become a woman or in order to become a man, or to have change your physiology, perhaps there is some patent or something that can align your endocrine system so that you will not have side effects of whatever hormones or what you're taking. And somebody, let's say, Piscean, has a patent around it, something that could be a patent. They say, no, I'm going to publish my idea in a YouTube video or in a technology. And so it is my idea. So like my name, my status, my this, my that, it is my idea. There's a signature in time that I did that. And then I might not make any money from that because I could say, well, I made that. And look at this, look at this, look at this date. Look at this post, look at this video, look at this blog that I made. I made that. I just didn't register it as a patent. But the original, you cannot register it as a patent and take all the money and not give all the service to all these women because it's my idea. Okay, so that's one thing. For example, if I come up with any of these ideas, that's probably what I'll do. Okay, and I've been having that for a while now. So that's one of the ways that this thing can play out. And then when Uranus comes 2025, 2026, now it's being produced, now it's being distributed, and now there can be a civil war. It's like, well, this person, they made the idea and they didn't ask for the patent. Like they give you the full right to implement the idea and just bring this technology to all these women. What halts you? It's not a patent. It's not money. Because the idea is already implemented. Okay, and now they can have a civil war around it. It's not, and nobody can hide under, oh, we need the patent. Oh, we need the investors in the patent. We need to register it as a patent so that we can get in the investment and so on, and all of that thing that I do not judge. Okay, that's the way we've been doing this up until today. But that can be hacked, and that can be transmuted in a way that we can get the technology, we can save the dividends, we can save the credit, we can honor the creators, but we are not going to do that on the account of actually creating technology that saves lives. Okay? Or alternatively, you do just that, and then Neptune is like, no, 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 no. Comes Uranus, and you realize that there was something around your idea. And I can go back to 2000, I think, 13, 14, when I said, oh, I was learning about chaos theory, and there was they were talking about the heart, arranging the beat of the heart, and I was like, oh, you could probably be a lot of bugs, and then Neuralinks, but even before Neuralinks, I saw that genuine people who dealt with trauma, whatnot, or mental ailment, they tried that and they came in and out of hospital, like it got worse. And so I was like, oh, that's very good that I didn't patent that and that I didn't apply that, because this idea was actually not good enough. And on the other hand, I discovered open dialogue that deals with psychosis without even having to have medications. Like, oh, you just validate the experience of the person, you look into the reality of what they do, you check what changes do they need to do in their life, you provide them with the basis and that allows them to make better choices for themselves, and you don't need to take any medication. Okay, I'm not saying every case, blah blah blah, but you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, oh, that was so good that I didn't patent this and started applying something, so that can go many ways. Saturn saves the day. Okay, so you might not be, if you're an inventor, you might not be making the invention of the lifetime this time, but it is actually in favor of the things you will make when you'll have elections with Uranus and Gemini. Jupiter. Oh yes, this particular election is Jupiter. So very lucky time to talk about this. Yeah. Jupiter will be with Chiron, separating from, the Chiron, squared by the moon. So the moon in this very particular election will be squaring this Chiron Jupiter. So they can we can address a wound we have about our beliefs, our martial arts, because Jupiter, Mars-ruled Jupiter is very much martial arts. The philosophical aspect of the martials, philosophy of militarism, philosophy of war, conflict, or philosophy of innovation. I talked about patents. Okay, so addressing the ailments and the wounds and tackling them, or alternatively, these wounds arise so that they can be processed. Yeah. So that is the potentials of this particular conjunction. What do we have here? Well, Venus is going to be quite close to Aries. And I don't have the ability to display the asteroids here. But Venus is going to be quite close with Aries. In Aries, Venus in the 29th degree is interesting. Again, this is March 16th, so it's just about 3 days from now. And the square of Venus-Pluto is ongoing. It deserves a video of its own. But the sextile from Saturn. So there can be a structure of alternative conscious experience of women, sensuality, whatnot, women warriors or whatnot, that we can lean on to support ourselves during those squares of Venus and basically also Aries and Pluto. So the moon here also happens to trine Uranus, so it is a great time for revolutionary stuff. So this is the context of this triple conjunction. Great potency to be a part of the process of scientific revolution and a lot of other revolutions, bringing in things from other realms, being aware that the implementation is there's a process there's a process to go through. Okay, and what's not working here will receive and will be addressed both when Mars, when Uranus will trine Pluto next year, and as of next year, and sextile Neptune, and of course, when Uranus enters Gemini, so the exact trine to Pluto, then we will have a more harmonious aspect between those three outer planets that we can lean back on amongst other influences in the sky. And that has a great potential of bringing these energies together to tap into something that's actually benefic for humanity. Okay, because all of these harmonious aspects are things we can tap into, and harmonious aspects are the harmonious aspects we see from the planet Earth. Okay, so it's not from the vantage point of the sun, it's from the vantage point of Earth. Yeah, they seem to try from the vantage point of Earth. And so it means that there is a harmonious relation that we can see in the sky between these energies. Okay. When it comes with the personal planet or with the moon, we can draw it in and we can begin to apply. Anything more I have to say about that? Well, the doom and glooms of tsunamis, Martian stuff, viral things, all those things. Like the doom and gloom exists. I don't ignore it. I just think we quite know what's happening around the world right now, and that we are in times of upheavals and change and revolutions and so on and so forth. So why not bring also the benefic aspect, the social revolutions, the scientific revolutions, the art that can be created here. This is very impressive. That's very intricate and intriguing. So yes, this is my humble contribution. And if you have stories around this, so of course it also rules trade. So we can't ignore this Mars-Mercury connection that we have. Active in the sky with Ketu in the Mars world sign, the Scorpio. And when the moon was crossing over Ketu, we did have the beginning of a couple of banks collapsing in the United States. So, and banks are not collapsing only in the United States, just that's what we hear in the news. But there is a slow and gradual collapse of a certain fiscal trade system that to be replaced with a new one. It is a part of the process. It has been ongoing for a while. Okay? Even if we talk about environmental issues, the coinage of metals, silver, gold, mining these two, those are created by magma. And when we mine magma too much, we affect the temperature of the earth, which in return affects I had a conversation with the bus drivers, actually, Christian, and he said something very smart. He said, we absolutely don't agree about LGBTQ rights, but he definitely said something very smart. He said that he believes that the core of the earth is actually cooling down, and this is why we see the warming around the earth, because we are mining the earth. And so we're mining, and this relates to the metals thing. We're mining magma, okay, we're mining minerals, we're mining those things that keep the earth warm inside. And so it gets cooled inside, but hot outside. So that I just thought that was brilliant. Just a random conversation with with a bus driver in the neighborhood. So I just thought that is a brilliant interpretation that we need to pay attention to. And so even from an environmental perspective, the currency of metals is not sustainable for humanity. So we need the currency or various currencies Okay, so divergence in currencies is actually not just in the name of how we name the coinage, but what is it made of? Okay, what do we trade? We need divergence of that, because as we have divergence of that, we don't mine the earth too much. And so we can sustain ourselves and sustain trade and sustain economy and sustain diversity, which contributes to our immune system, to our philosophy, to our being a better person and being exposed to various types of cultures, languages, and so on and so forth, and for many things to get along. Um, it doesn't mean that there are no predatory things in any ecosystem, but it does make it more sustainable as a whole. So what we need to understand is that this diversity of coinage of the substance or the ether that we use as currency is something that is about to come. Okay? And that diversity has the ability to create unity, especially so if it sustains the world and we stop mining the crap out of the earth, then we can absolutely interfere with climate. Not interfere, but stop what we're doing. It doesn't mean that this is the whole story of climate. Absolutely not. The planets are playing a role, and the planets are outside of the Earth. But there are also things we can do with the energy of the planets inside the Earth, just like in a human being, right? You have our charts, but it does not mean that our entire life is dictated by our charts. We have a lot of room for magic, for alchemy, for medicine, and so on and so forth. Um, yeah. So that's trade. And so there can be certain losses, fated losses in trade. Also listen to Lada uploaded the video just right now about the coming days where she addressed this square of Mars and the triple conjunction. So I'm not going to repeat what she said, because even if I do give credit, because not Lada, she interviewed a woman, I don't remember the name, brilliant astrologer. So I really suggest you to listen to this video as well, because it's brilliant. It's one of the best interpretations I've seen of a transit. Is so accurate. So listen to that video as well. I'm not going to repeat the knowledge, just and also be introduced. So maybe we could just for a second go on YouTube. I want to show this video to you. Let me see. So this is the video by Lada. I'm not going to broadcast it because I don't have the rights. Just want to here Bianca. Okay, so she interviews Bianca, and she breaks down also the doom and gloom, like the hard reality of what days for this Mars Neptune thing, and she addresses another a couple of midpoints, and just brilliant. Watch it. So I don't get anything from that. If you watch it because of me, then you say, I got here from Shirley or Spirit of Matter or whatnot. So that's pretty much all I have to say. So this is the peak of that. We are already there. It's going to be peaking around March 16th and then slowly declining in the coming days, and still being in effect. So a lot of people ask, how do I protect myself because of this, Mars, Neptune, and so on and so forth. I don't have an answer. First of all, on the level of consciousness, understanding that outer planets can bring fated things. Also, outer planets do respond to intention. Okay, so setting an intention of the things being in favor of you, in favor of humanity, setting an intention to work the thing. You might even get a premonition, or you might get an intuition around certain clearing that you can do, energy cleanse that you can do as the moon is decreasing. They can culminate here. Because Mars, Gemini, so technology, public transportation, things around the neighborhood, all these things. You might, if you do have an amulet you carry with you for protection or prayer, that can be something you want to bring in now. Um, and a prayer for things ruled by Neptune. Okay, so for people who risk their lives spying in favor of humanity, hackers in favor of humanity, people who are missing, pray for them. Um, um, yeah, people who are like musician or artistic or very sensitive souls, you can pray for them, and set that intention. So that is also a good energy that you can activate around this time. Um, because of those things related to, Neptune is waves, but waves do not happen without earthquakes, and they do not happen without storms. So refresh the protection that you could have, and be cautious around these things, and then pray for people that deal with these natural disasters, to be well. If you want to know the various locations that are more prone to this doom and gloom stuff, then you can again watch Bianca at Lada's channel. She really goes through the astrocartography, and fortunately, the country I'm currently in was not mentioned, to my surprise. But she did mention Iran and Saudi Arabia, and I realized that they're beginning to renew connections. So that's interesting to observe. Yes, thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you have any insights. If you have a video that addresses any of the things, or reaction video, you can put your reaction video to mine in the comments below, so we can all increase our discourse. And I'll see you in my next video. If you want to receive notifications when I come up live, you can subscribe and click the bell. What you can also do is write me, because I do have an email, and we can arrange for like a list that we can hopefully save, if the divine wants, and be able to contact each other, with if things on social media change and so on and so forth. So you can email me absolutely with your contact details, and then I can keep you updated on when do I post new things. I do have a Patreon page. I believe it's on my yeah, I believe it's in my account. So you can donate me there, or if there are issues with this page, then you can email me and I'll see what's going on. Um, so that's a possibility to support me. And yeah, as for readings, well, I'm not like, it's not that you can't approach me. I just can't really promise right now on when, what, how, and so on and so forth. It's not I don't want to read for you. It's just I do have Uranus in my Sun in the third house, which happens to be my day, to be my schedule, and so that is very unexpected. And yeah, so but that depending on what topics you want to have the reading. I have great colleagues that you can turn to for a reading, and me you can support on Patreon, or other ways, so that I can keep making free content in the spirit of Pluto moving to Aquarius. I'd really like my compensation to be natural and flowing, so that I can have my natural flow of creative work and money coming in naturally. So a good way for that to flow is that you can just donate me how much ever you feel like, and whenever you can. You can allocate money for that. That the creative projects that I do, then I usually mention the dividends that I want to pay, to people who I've learned from, or people who've been supportive of me, or people who just don't have, the access to certain resources that maybe I can provide. I am interested in having a project in Madagascar, because they produce rose quartz there, and it's child labor currently. So I'd really like to improve upon the working condition of these people. I don't know how to do that. And the currency there, is so different to the currency of like the West. So I might be able to actually do something and perhaps connect vendors, for example, in Germany where they sell a lot of crystals, and connect them directly to the miners themselves and their families. I know that the people who hire the miners get, like, they supply the material to China and India to be processed as a lot of things that we use, like the roller for the face, or jade eggs, or all kinds of stuff. And so that is a project I don't know how to tackle, but it's something that I definitely want to do something about. Again, not on the account of anybody, but definitely to increase the dividends and the working conditions, and also to have the people who actually mine these quartzes be able to also use the products and relax, because rose quartz is around, rose quartz Madagascar is only moonline. It's around love. It's a crystal I really recommend for Sada Sati, okay, when Saturn crosses the moon, conjuncts the moon, or for the opposition of Saturn and the moon. Saturn rules crystals. And for me, the moon line is in Madagascar. But I also like to pray for the people, and I also like to bless the people, and I also like to do, to transfer, to allocate resources, and to not only allocate resources, but enforce change, so that the people who provide us with these crystals get the chance to have their dreams come true, get the chance to have their healing, their nourishment, because love is one, life is one, and this whole chance that you get this rose quartz, or you get this video, or you get this profit, or you get this that. We also want the people who are in our chain of supply to be nourished, and that also increases wealth, something I deeply believe in, and increases the effect of rose quartz even. So think about how beneficial rose quartz is now, and how much more beneficial it will be if the people who handle it from the mining would both have the working conditions, the rights, and the time to relax and enjoy and use this crystal themselves, even as it processed, because even in the raw form, because even in the raw form, if you use the crystal, is great. So if they have the chance to just have a better relation with that, to think about how much the energy of rose quartz, which is already great energy, how much it will increase, and how much it would serve humanity even more, and how much more effective it will be if every person that handled this crystal was doing so in the environment of love, in the environment of restfulness, of ease, of abundance, of wealth, of well-being, from children to adult. And the important thing, there are mines with rose quartz Madagascar. There are mines in Madagascar where the rose quartz is really close to the surface of the soil, so you don't have to dig too deeply into the earth, which is more environmental. Another thing I want to do is to bring tourism, but in a way that is not human trafficking and all that, but genuine good ecotourism for climate healing. And I need to search. I would like to visit there myself, and to bring good tourism, but in a way that integrates with the locals. So not on the account of the locals, but actually to improve the economy of Madagascar. I don't know in relative to the sea level, do they need elevation from the sea level? Are they in risk of being flooded? So that is something I would like to address as well. And if you know anybody or if you are able to assist that or spread the awareness, or even share this video with the timestamp for that, you don't even have to share the astrology part. That's something I'm very interested in. And again, I come with zero judgment of what the condition is right now, but radical acceptance, and thinking of where can I intervene in favor of the situation. Okay. And understanding that the business models that allow for abundance to spread across the entire chain of supply are not on the account of profit. They are not. Okay, if every person who tends to your supply chain is wealthy, imagine how much more wealthy you will be. And this truly works. So yeah, I'll end with that.